He built an empire from steel and silence, but when he saw four little girls selling $5 flowers with his ex-wife's eyes, Sterling Whitmore forgot every billion he ever made. Sterling Whitmore was not a man given to imagination. At 52, he believed in numbers, in outcomes, in risk measured by decimal points. Ghosts had no place in his world of quarterly earnings and boardroom silence. He ran Montgomery Holdings like a war machine, smooth and brutal, wrapped in polished glass and non-disclosure agreements. His name adorned hospital wings, business schools, and charity galas, but few knew his laugh, and fewer still remembered his heart. That morning he descended in a private elevator, wool coat crisp, phone buzzing with market alerts. Fifth Avenue welcomed him with its usual song, horns, sirens, and the pulse of commerce. But before he could even step toward his town car, something arrested him. Children, 4 of them, sitting on overturned milk crates near the corner of 53rd, bundled in threadbare coats, cheeks pink from the bite of the November wind. They were too symmetrical to ignore. Not just similar, identical. They sat close, like birds in a nest, guarding buckets of fresh flowers arranged with an artistry that didn't belong to the street. Crayon signs stuck to each bucket read, "Hope Bouquets, $5, for Mom." Sterling had almost passed them by. He often did. His world did not require eye contact with sidewalk merchants or bundled-up children with handmade signs. But then it happened. One of them looked up, and Sterling stopped breathing. Green-gray eyes, wide set and flecked with gold, framed by thick lashes and an expression he had once known better than his own. His mind fell through a decade as if the wind had carried him backward. Claire. It couldn't be. She was gone. He knew that, but the girl was real, solid, breathing. And there were 3 more, all with the same face. His mind reeled. Quadruplets. The one who had seen him, the one with the piercing stare, nudged the girl beside her. Within seconds, all 4 were watching him. There was something reverent, almost solemn in the way they regarded him, as though his appearance had changed something. The tallest girl stood. Her voice, barely louder than the wind, reached him. "Would you like to buy some flowers? They're for our mom. Only $5. Sterling didn't move at first. Then, almost involuntarily, he stepped forward. "What's your name?" he asked. He hardly recognized the sound of his own voice. She extended a bouquet, her gloved hand trembling only slightly. "I'm Ellie," she said. "This is Laya, Rowan, and Wren. We're the Hope girls." He swallowed. The name hit like a bruise. Claire had once said she would name a daughter Hope, if they ever had one. Sterling reached into his wallet. There were no 5s, no 10s, only hundreds. He handed one to Ellie. She stared at the bill. "This is too much." "No," he said softly, "it's not." Laya tilted her head, watching him with narrowed eyes, not skeptical but curious, calculating. Wren coughed into her scarf, a dry, repetitive sound that made his chest tighten. Rowan, freckles bright against her pale cheeks, stepped closer. "You look like the man in Mommy's picture box," she said simply. Sterling froze. Before he could speak, Ellie grabbed the others by the hands. "We have to go. Ruth will worry." And just like that, they vanished, slipping through the crowd like a dream unraveling. Sterling stood there for a full minute, his body motionless as yellow cabs roared past and city life resumed its rhythm around him. He walked the rest of the block like a man underwater. Inside the silence of his penthouse, he poured himself a scotch he didn't drink. Instead, he opened the bottom drawer of his mahogany desk and pulled out a photo. Claire. laughing in a white dress, radiant and real, him beside her, younger and cocky. That had been the day everything started, and somehow the day it ended. He remembered her voice shaking, standing right there in the middle of their old apartment. "I'm pregnant, Sterling." He remembered accusing her, denying her, because the doctors had said he was functionally infertile. And if science said it, it must be true. He had believed spreadsheets over her tears, logic over love. Claire had disappeared the next morning, left nothing but silence and one last unopened letter. His assistant had tossed it, thinking it unimportant. Now, 10 years later, 4 girls with her face were selling flowers on the sidewalk. He stared at the bouquet Ellie had given him. Daisies, carnations, baby's breath, hope. He picked up the phone and dialed the one number he never used lightly. "Franklin," he said, "this is Whitmore. I need you to find someone." A pause. "Claire Hall." Another pause. "My ex-wife, and 4 little girls who might be hers." He hung up and whispered into the silence, "God help me. What have I done?" The next morning, Sterling Whitmore, man of protocol and appointment, did something unthinkable. He showed up to a street corner without a destination. At 6:45 a.m., coffee in gloved hand, he stood by the corner of 5th and 53rd, waiting, watching. By 8 o'clock, his back ached. By 8:30, he ignored emails from Tokyo, declined a board call, and waved off Eleanor's text. Missing another meeting? Call me. He didn't care. At 8:47 they came. Ellie first, buckets in hand. Rowan close behind with a backpack too big. Laya murmuring to Wren, who coughed softly into a pink scarf. They moved with practiced rhythm, like soldiers of hope. Sterling crossed the street, ducked behind a bench, and watched them set up. He didn't know what he was doing, only that he couldn't leave. They arranged their buckets, rewrote their sign, sat in the same perfect symmetry. Ellie counted their bills. Rowan watched him. Leia glanced over but said nothing. He didn't know what to call the feeling. Awe, regret, recognition. He knew one thing. He couldn't walk away. His phone buzzed. Franklin. "We found Claire Hall." Sterling's breath caught. "Where?" A pause. "Rikers Island. 4 months into a 6-month sentence. Caught stealing groceries? Early release denied." Sterling staggered. "And the girls?" "In the care of Ruth Callahan, retired social worker, Hope Haven Shelter, Lower East Side." Sterling stared across the street at Ellie fixing Wren's scarf. "Hope Haven," he whispered. He ended the call and stood still for a long moment. Then he made a decision. Not as CEO, not as Whitmore, as something else. Maybe, just maybe, as their father. Sterling Whitmore had made a fortune by noticing the smallest anomalies in massive systems. A shift in steel prices, a hesitation in a partner's voice, a pause in a quarterly report. He caught them all. But this was different. This time, the anomaly wasn't in a spreadsheet. It was in a cough. A shallow, persistent sound from a girl no older than 9. He hadn't stopped thinking about it since yesterday. The rasp in Wren's breath, the way Ellie tightened her scarf around her sister's neck without saying a word. It wasn't the action of a child mimicking a parent. It was the instinct of someone who had done this before. Too many times. That morning, Sterling bypassed his office and told his driver to take him to the Lower East Side. He didn't say why, didn't need to. The streets changed as they moved downtown, less glass, more brick, less polish, more wear. It had been years since he'd come this far east, since before Claire. He remembered those early days, before wealth, before Manhattan towers, back when he and Claire had rented a crumbling walk-up with radiators that hissed all night and windows that didn't close right. She used to bring home flowers from the hospital where she worked, leftovers from arrangements patients never picked up. She'd clip the stems, rearrange them in old jars, and place them on every sill. "Beauty doesn't ask permission," she had told him once. "It just shows up and dares you to notice." He hadn't noticed. Not then. Now, every flower cut him like glass. The car stopped in front of a narrow brick building nestled between a boarded-up laundromat and a pawn shop. The wooden sign out front read, "Hope Haven Shelter. Women and Children Welcome." It looked tired. The paint was peeling. One of the front windows was cracked, but there was a small pot of mums on the stoop. He stepped out and was greeted by cold wind and the smell of yesterday's rain. A woman exited with a baby on her hip, nodded at him once, then hurried on. No one else noticed him. That was fine. Today he didn't want to be noticed. He rang the buzzer. A minute later, a woman's voice crackled through the speaker. "Hope Haven." "I'd like to speak with Ruth Callahan," Sterling said. "Who's asking?" "Tell her. A potential donor." There was a pause. Then the door buzzed. Inside, the air was warm but thin, like the heat was trying to keep up. The lobby was clean but worn. Linoleum floors, plastic chairs, walls adorned with crayon drawings and faded flyers. A woman appeared at the end of the hallway, wiping her hands on a dish towel. She was in her 60s, short and sturdy, with steel gray curls tucked under a knit cap and eyes that had clearly seen everything. "You the donor?" she asked, eyeing him. He nodded. "Name's Parker." "Just Parker? I don't like red tape." She smirked faintly. "Neither do I. Come on back." Her office was smaller than he expected. The desk was cluttered with folders and snack wrappers. A pot of coffee sputtered on a hot plate in the corner. Crayon art covered one wall. On the other was a corkboard filled with Polaroids, smiling kids, birthday parties, handmade banners. "Sit," Ruth said, gesturing to a chair. "You here to write a check or take a tour?" "Maybe both," Sterling said. "I want to understand the need." Ruth narrowed her eyes. "Most men who show up with designer coats and aliases aren't here to understand anything." Sterling smiled tightly. "I'm not most men." "Prove it." He looked around. "You know 4 girls, Ellie, Laya, Rowan, Wren." That made her freeze. "What's your connection to them?" she asked carefully. He hesitated. "Let's just say, I think I may have known their mother, a long time ago." Ruth studied him for a beat, then stood and walked to the wall of art. She pulled down one page, a sketch of 4 bouquets, one labeled for each girl, and in the corner a scribbled note, "For Mommy," and maybe for Daddy, too. Sterling's knees weakened. "She drew this?" he asked. "Laya," Ruth replied, "after they started selling flowers, said it helped to write it down." Sterling couldn't speak. "You met them, didn't you?" Ruth asked. He nodded slowly. "On 5th Avenue. They're good girls, brave. Claire raised them right." He swallowed hard. "How long have they been here?" 4 months, ever since Claire got arrested." "For what?" Ruth's mouth tightened. "Stealing food from a bodega, bread, cough syrup. Judge gave her 6 months, said he wanted to send a message." Sterling looked down. "And the girls?" "I'm their emergency placement. I was Claire's mentor during her hospital training. Stayed in touch. When the arrest happened, I took them in." "Is that legal?" "It's life," Ruth said. "And it's better than foster care." Sterling exhaled. "I want to help." "Then don't just write a check," Ruth said. "Show up. Show them you're not another stranger who leaves." "I'd like to volunteer," he said. Ruth raised a brow. We don't have chauffeurs here. Good, he said. I left mine at the penthouse. That earned the first smile. That afternoon, Sterling returned in borrowed jeans and boots that didn't quite fit. Ruth handed him a hairnet and an apron. No special treatment. In the kitchen, the girls were helping prep dinner. Ellie was slicing carrots. Rowan washed lettuce. Leah read labels. Wren stirred a pot and coughed softly between songs. Ruth cleared her throat. This is Parker. He's helping out today. Ellie looked up, cautious. Rowan frowned. Leah stared. But Wren smiled. You look different today. Sterling smiled back. So do you. More soup on your face. She giggled. The others relaxed slightly. Later, as they cleared trays, Ruth pulled him aside and handed him a binder. What's this? He asked. Their wish book. I told them dreams have a better chance of coming true if you write them down. He flipped it open. Pages of dreams. A house, a warm coat, a tea kettle. But one page stopped him. Title, If We Had a Dad. 4 columns, 4 hopes. Ellie. He'd walk us to school and fix the broken sink. Rowan. He'd listen to our poems even if they don't rhyme. Leah. He'd say he's staying. Wren. He'd help Mom not cry at night. Sterling closed the binder slowly, his hands trembling. Ruth said nothing, just watched. He whispered, I wasn't ready then. But I'm here now. She nodded. Then prove it. That night, Sterling didn't return to the penthouse. He slept on a cot in the staff room. It was cold. It was uncomfortable. It was real. And for the first time in 10 years, he felt like he belonged to something worth staying for. The next morning came quietly. The kind of overcast New York dawn where the sky lingered in grayscale and the buildings all felt like they were holding their breath. Sterling stood in the Hope Haven kitchen before sunrise, sleeves rolled up, peeling potatoes beside a woman named Dolores, who claimed to be the fastest peeler on the East River. You missed a spot, she said without looking. Sterling inspected the potato. She was right. He tried again, hands clumsy, and Dolores chuckled. You're not from around here, are you, Parker? Not exactly. You a banker? He hesitated. Something like that. Just don't cut yourself. By 7:30, the girls had trickled into the kitchen one by one, hair still tousled, wearing mismatched clothes that had clearly been chosen in the dark. Ellie led the way as usual. She said good morning to everyone, then immediately checked Wren's temperature with the back of her hand. Leah poured juice. Rowan grabbed toast. Wren curled up in the window seat with a blanket and a coloring book. She coughed into her sleeve. Again. Sterling watched from the sink. None of the girls had said much to him since yesterday, but they watched, quietly, carefully, especially Leah. By 8, Ruth had gathered them at the front door. You know the routine, she said. Buckets, signs, layers. The girls pulled on gloves and hats. Ellie handed out cardboard signs like a commander issuing orders. Sterling grabbed a coat and followed them outside. Where do you think you're going? Ruth asked, arching a brow. With them. She studied him. You're not here to play guardian angel. I know. Then don't hover. Just help. He nodded. They walked the 12 blocks to 5th and 53rd in practiced silence. The girls knew every crack in the sidewalk, every building that threw off heat. Sterling trailed behind with an extra bucket in hand. No one spoke. But when Wren stumbled on a loose curb, he caught her elbow instinctively. She looked up at him, surprised. Thanks, she mumbled. He smiled. Any time. At the corner, they set up with the same synchronized rhythm he'd seen that first day. Flowers out, signs arranged. Rowan stuck a crayon heart to the front bucket. "Marketing," she said proudly. Around 9:30, traffic picked up. The girls worked in shifts. Ellie handled most of the talking, Rowan waved signs, Wren held the bouquets and offered soft smiles that broke strangers' hearts. Laya watched, always watching. By mid-morning, they'd sold 10 bouquets. Enough for lunch. The girls sat on the bench, sharing a muffin and passing around a single bottle of water. Sterling sat nearby, flipping through emails he had no intention of answering. Eleanor had messaged him again. "Board needs you. Tokyo is asking questions. Where the hell are you?" He deleted it. "Hey, Mr. Parker," a voice said. He looked up. Wren stood in front of him with a folded piece of paper. "I drew you something." He unfolded it slowly. It was a picture of 5 stick figures, 4 small, 1 tall, standing beside a flower stand. Above them were 2 words scrawled in purple crayon. "Maybe Dad?" His throat tightened. "Do you like it?" she asked. He nodded. "Very much." Laya stood nearby, arms crossed. "She gives those drawings to everyone," she said. Wren gasped. "Do not." Laya tilted her head. "Okay, not everyone, but still. Be careful with it." Sterling folded the drawing with gentle hands and placed it in his coat pocket. "I will." Later that afternoon, while Ellie negotiated a sale with a businessman in a hurry, Laya sat on the edge of the bench, sketchbook in her lap. She wasn't drawing flowers this time. Sterling passed behind her and caught a glimpse, lines, shadows, shapes that formed a man. Him. He paused. "May I see it?" She didn't answer at first. Then slowly she turned the page toward him. It was a pencil sketch, more detailed than he expected. A tall man holding a bouquet in one hand, a child's mitten in the other. But what arrested him wasn't the pose. It was the expression, the eyes. She had drawn his sadness. It was all there. "I look haunted," he said quietly. "You are," she replied. He looked at her. "Do you believe people can change?" Laya shrugged. "People say that a lot, but most don't." "I'm trying to." "Try harder." He nodded. They packed up early that day. The wind had picked up and Wren's cough was worse. As they walked back to the shelter, Sterling offered to carry her bucket. "No," she said. "It's mine." But halfway down the block, she handed it to him anyway. Back at Hope Haven, Ruth met them at the door. "She needs rest," she said, nodding at Wren. "I'm fine," Wren insisted, then yawned. "Go lie down," Ellie said. "We'll finish up." Sterling lingered in the hallway after dinner, unsure what to do with himself. That's when Laya appeared beside him, holding another drawing. She didn't hand it to him. She pinned it to the corkboard outside Ruth's office, then looked him in the eye. "You want to help?" "Yes." "Then stop pretending you're someone else." She walked away. He stared at the drawing. This one was different. 5 figures again, 4 girls, 1 man. The caption said, "If he stays." And beneath it, in tiny block letters, 1 word, maybe. 3 days passed. Sterling had never marked time by coughs before, but now he counted every shallow breath from Wren like beads on a rosary. Ruth had gotten her a nebulizer, donated by a clinic in Queens, but it only dulled the edge. The wheeze was still there, faint, high, like wind squeezing through a cracked door. He tried to keep himself busy, cleaning the kitchen, sorting donations, reading to the younger kids at night. But his mind stayed fixed on one thing: Claire, the woman he had failed, and the only person who could make sense of the mess he'd made. On Friday morning, Ruth cornered him while he was restocking canned goods. "You're not going to be able to do this much longer," she said. He looked up. "What do you mean?" "They'll start asking questions. The girls." And you haven't told Claire. She deserves to hear it from you, not from some whispered guess or government form. I know. Ruth pulled a key from her pocket. I scheduled your visit. Rikers, Sunday noon. Sterling stared at it. I'll go with the girls, she added. They visit every 2 weeks. It won't seem strange. He took the key. Thank you. No thanks, she said. Just don't waste it. Sunday morning was cold, the kind of biting November chill that made concrete ache. Ellie had pressed their best clothes the night before, meaning the least wrinkled shirts and the one pair of tights that didn't have holes. Laya braided Wren's hair with trembling hands. Rowan sharpened a colored pencil and drew cartoon versions of all of them in capes. When it came time to leave, Sterling stood by the shelter's gate. He hadn't asked to come, but Ruth nodded toward the passenger seat of her old station wagon. Get in. Get in, she said. He climbed in without a word. The ride was silent. Wren hummed a song under her breath. Rowan tapped her feet. Laya stared at the gray skyline. Ellie whispered the same sentence over and over. She's going to be okay. She's going to be okay. She's going to be okay. They reached Rikers just before noon. The guards were curt, the metal detectors loud, the process clinical, shoes off, coats scanned, bags searched. The girls did it all with eerie precision, like this was routine. When they entered the visitation room, Claire was already seated behind the glass. Sterling hadn't seen her in 10 years. Not really. And still, she looked the same, thinner, tired. But the same quiet strength in her shoulders, the same storm behind her eyes. Her gaze locked on him first. She froze. Then she saw the girls. Wren pressed both hands against the glass. Mommy! Claire's face cracked. She picked up the phone, tears already forming. One at a time, baby birds, she said. One at a time. The girls burst into overlapping chatter. School, flowers, the new soup recipe, the lady who gave them mittens. Sterling stood behind them, silent. Claire looked at him again, her voice quieter now. Why are you here? He didn't speak. Then Laya turned slowly and handed Claire a drawing. 5 stick figures, 4 with dresses, 1 in a tie. Caption, maybe he came back. Claire stared at it. Her hands shook. She whispered something to the guard. Moments later, Sterling was escorted to a private booth. Small, cold, bare. She entered, arms crossed, not sitting. Talk, she said. He did. He told her everything. The flowers, the sidewalk, the cough, the truth, and the lie. About Eleanor, about the doctors, about the letters that never reached him. Claire didn't cry. She didn't rage. She just asked one question. Are you ready to be their father? He nodded. She shook her head. Not the man who shows up with money. I mean the one who holds Wren at 2 a.m. when she can't breathe. The one who doesn't run when Ellie slams the door. The one who listens when Laya says nothing. And the one who keeps showing up even when Rowan pushes him away. Yes, he whispered. She looked away. Then prove it. He wanted to hold her, say he was sorry, that he would never stop trying. But he didn't, because for once he knew words weren't enough. He left the prison with a silent vow. He would stay. Back at the shelter, the girls gathered around the dinner table with paper plates and a half-burnt lasagna Ruth insisted was just a little crispy. Sterling sat beside Wren, helping her pick out the onions. She grinned. Did she smile at you? She whispered. He blinked. Who? Mom. He smiled. Yes, a little. Wren nodded. Then maybe you can come again. He touched her cheek gently. I'd like that. Across the table, Ellie watched him, still guarded. But Laya met his eyes, and this time she didn't look away. only said softly, "She's deciding." Sterling nodded. "So am I." The first snow of the season fell the next morning, soft and slow like the city itself had decided to exhale. Outside Hope Haven, the rooftops wore a thin veil of white. Inside, Wren sat curled in Sterling's lap, holding a mug of cocoa with 2 marshmallows floating near the rim. "You came back," she whispered. "I promised I would," he replied. She leaned into him, warm and trusting. "Ellie says promises are tricky." "She's not wrong," Sterling said, "but I don't break mine anymore." In the kitchen, Rowan was burning toast. Laya was doodling in the margins of a math worksheet. Ellie paced near the front door, checking her watch. Claire was getting out that afternoon. The girls didn't say it, but the tension hung like fog. Their mom was coming home, and no one knew what that would look like, not even Sterling. By noon, they'd packed into Ruth's car again. This time, there were no crayons or nervous jokes, just silence. When Claire stepped out of the discharge doors wearing donated jeans and a borrowed coat, the girls ran first. Wren threw herself into her mother's arms. Ellie followed fast. Rowan buried her face in Claire's side. Laya came last, walking slowly, watching carefully, until Claire opened her arms to her too. Sterling stood back. Claire saw him, and this time she nodded. They didn't go back to the shelter. They went somewhere new, an apartment in Brooklyn. Clean, simple, 3 bedrooms, paid for by a trust under Claire's name, her name only. Sterling didn't ask to stay. He just helped carry boxes, hung curtains, put together bunk beds with too many screws. Claire watched him from the kitchen. "You didn't have to do this," she said. "I know." She folded a dish towel. "But thank you." He nodded. "This is just the beginning." That night they made spaghetti. Wren set the table with mismatched plates. Ellie lit a candle from a thrift shop. Rowan picked a playlist of soft piano songs. Laya, without a word, handed Sterling a folded drawing. He opened it carefully. 5 figures, smiling, 1 man, 4 girls, a house, a garden. Above it, in her neatest print, "Not what we lost, what we found." He blinked fast. Claire came to his side. She looked at the drawing, then at him. "She asks a lot, with very few words. She gets that from you." They stood in silence for a long time. Then Claire whispered, "She still calls you Parker sometimes." "I don't mind," he said. "That name belongs to the man who learned how to stay." She smiled. Small. Real. "Then maybe you should keep it." Later that night, Wren climbed into bed and asked if she could say goodnight twice. "Once for now," she said, "and once in case I forget later." Sterling tucked the blanket under her chin. "Good night now," he whispered. She yawned. "And later?" "I'll be here." The next morning, Sterling walked them to school. All 4. Laya held his hand at the crosswalk. Rowan kept looking up from her backpack as if checking he was still beside her. Ellie gave directions, bossy and proud. Wren skipped every 3rd step. At the gate, it started with a broken tea kettle. The old one, the one Claire had carried from apartment to apartment like a relic, finally sputtered its last steam one gray morning. Sterling found it in the sink, half full, leaking from a crack along the bottom. He didn't say anything, just quietly picked it up and left. The next afternoon, a new kettle appeared. Not shiny, not expensive, but solid, reliable. Claire noticed it, said nothing, but the next time Sterling came over, there was tea waiting. Spring came slowly, but it came. Daisies sprouted from cracks in the sidewalk. Sunlight lasted longer. Wren stopped needing the nebulizer every night. Sterling began helping with homework regularly, especially math. Ellie's favorite, Laya's secret strength, and Rowan's least favorite thing in the universe. One afternoon, Rowan slammed her pencil down. "I hate fractions," she declared. Sterling gently took the worksheet. "Let me show you something." He drew a pizza. By the end of the session, she was dividing imaginary slices among superheroes and villains, giggling every time Lex Luthor got stuck with the smallest piece. Later that night, she slipped him a note. "You're kinda cool, but don't tell anyone." The apartment filled with new rituals. Pasta Fridays, drawing Saturdays, morning walks with Ellie before school. Sterling didn't live there, but his presence became as predictable as the mailman. The couch developed an indent where he sat reading bedtime stories. Wren began leaving drawings on his lap without a word. One showed Claire and Sterling sitting side by side beneath a big daisy. 5 hearts floated above their heads. He kept that one in his wallet. One evening, Claire called for help. Not with the girls. With herself. She was applying for a new job, a patient care coordinator at the same hospital that once dismissed her for taking too many sick days to care for 4 children. She asked Sterling to read her cover letter. He did, and then sat quietly. "This is good," he said, "but it's missing one thing." "What?" "Your fight." She looked confused. "The part where you kept them alive on flour money and stale toast. The part where you taught them to braid hair and believe in magic even when the lights were off." "Tell them that part." She rewrote the letter and got the job. Wren started sleeping through the night. Her dreams shifted. Less coughing, more laughter. One night she whispered, "Do you think people get to be new again?" Sterling replied, "Not new, just more themselves." She smiled. "Then I think we're doing okay." Then, one Saturday morning, Ellie handed Sterling a calendar. "What's this?" he asked. "It's your schedule," she said. "You're officially on the rotation." "Rotation?" "Dad duties," she said matter of fact. "Tuesdays are story time. Thursdays you take Laya to art club. Sundays you help Mom with groceries." He stared at the calendar. It was color-coded, illustrated, perfect. "You made this?" She raised an eyebrow. "I'm class president. I run an empire." He laughed. "Of course." A few weeks later, Sterling came home to find Claire sitting on the fire escape, arms crossed, eyes scanning the sky. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded slowly. "I'm not scared anymore," she said. "Not of you. Not of what we are." He waited. She turned to him. "I want you to stay. Not just for them. For me, too." His heart didn't race. It steadied. "I already am." They didn't get married. Not right away. There was no fairy tale wedding or big announcement. But one morning, Laya added a name to the mailbox with a Sharpie. The Whitmore Hull family. When Claire saw it, she laughed so hard she cried. Sterling didn't change it. He just added a daisy beside it. That summer, they planted a real garden, behind the building, in donated pots. Wren called it the Hope Patch. One day, as she watered the daisies, she looked up at him and asked, "Do you think flowers remember who planted them?" He knelt beside her. "I think they remember who stayed." She nodded. "Then they'll remember you." He touched her cheek. "I hope so." The last page of Wren's newest book was different. No stick figures. No maybe, just a daisy. And underneath it, in her cleanest handwriting, he stayed. The end.